And greetings. That's great. This literally happened right as the show. We were in the middle of the theme, and the lights went out.
We come to you from the upside down.
I kind of like this, though. It kind of has a mood to it, you know?
This is Steve Deace Noir.
It's two for Tuesday here on WBLZ, otherwise known as The Blaze. Coming up, we've got some Skinnerd, followed by some Kansas. But first, Foghat. Now we've lost all the lights. This is the greatest start of all time. There it is. Let there be light. And on the second minute, Aaron said, let there be light.
Except for me.
And it was so, except for you. You are still in the dark. Yes.
Nefarious is a gamer, isn't he?
Do we know what happened?
No.
No?
No, they've been doing, I mean, we could barely hear ourselves talk earlier today. They've been doing some more demo, I think, next door. I don't know if that had something to do with it. I was literally giving, Todd's earpiece just disappeared, like vanished.
That also happened 3 minutes ago.
I was busy giving him a backup one. He's got somebody else's earwax in his ear now.
I'm a gamer too.
As soon as I put his old earpiece down, that's when the lights went off. I rushed over here to hit the intro.
Well,
That's
folks,
how it's going today so far.
We are mired in a late stage republic. This is Managed Decay, and we're bringing it to you live right here on Blaze TV as we speak. All right, coming up, by the way, I'm Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. He's Aaron McIntyre. Dark Man. We have for you later today some fake news or not. Pop Culture Tuesday is the fulfillment this week of biblical teaching. Straight up. Biblical teaching fulfilled in your hearing on Pop Culture Tuesday coming up later on in this show. Someone has received his reward in full and is now free to go buy his Potter's Field. We will discuss this with you coming up a little bit later on in the show. The bottom of the hour, my good friend Chip Roy is going to join us, congressman from the formerly great state of Texas. Don't forget about our friends over at Eden Pure, where you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air that eliminates odors. It's not an air freshener. It's an air cleanser. It kills the mold, the mildew, the bacteria, even some of the viruses that are causing the unfreshness of your air with their Thunderstorm air purifier. It is filterless, so you're never going to have to replace it. Filters either out of your own pocket or out of your own schedule. And you can get 3 units for whole home protection for under $200 plus free shipping when you go to EdenPureDeals.com. That again is EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code Steve. Discount code Steve at EdenPureDeals.com. Get 3 units for under $200 and free shipping. EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code Steve. And with that, let us get rolling as we always do with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by They're Really Serious This Time. Senator Chuck Grassley revealed the alleged existence of no fewer than 17 secret recordings, 2 of then Vice President Joe Biden and 15 of Hunter Biden, accepting bribes from a foreign national, particularly a foreign national working for that Ukrainian oil and gas company called Burisma.
These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot. The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in Burisma employing Hunter Biden. Based on the facts known to the Congress and the public, it's clear that the Justice Department, the FBI, haven't nearly had the same laser focus on the Biden family.
Moving on, Ron DeSantis is raising the bar for Supreme Court justices he would pick as president. He told Hugh Hewitt yesterday.
Well, actually, I would say we'll do better than that. I mean, I respect the 3 appointees he did, but none of those 3 are at the same level of Justices Thomas and Justice Alito. I think they are the gold standard, and so my justices will be along the lines of a Sam Alito and a Clarence Thomas. In Florida, I inherited a very liberal state Supreme Court, maybe the most liberal in the country, very activist, but I was able to replace 3 of the 4 liberals my first month in office with conservative justices. I've since been able to make a number of appointments since then, so we now have the most conservative state Supreme Court in the country. And so I think we have a really good track record on doing that. And in fact, 2 of my Supreme Court picks when I first year in office were elevated to the 11th Circuit by President Donald Trump.
Former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan went on CBS this morning to distance himself from that dastardly culture war.
Republican lawmakers around the country are pushing legislation when it comes to banning books. It could be trans rights. Call it anti-woke, or however you want to label it. Is that a good approach, a good strategy? You're a football fan. Is that the way you should approach it?
Yeah, I'm not a culture war guy. I think it's really polarizing. Look, on some of these issues, I'll side, with the anti-woke crowd. But to me, I'm worried about a debt crisis. I'm worried about, the future of our country and China. There are big policy problems that we need to tackle if we want to have a great 21st century for this country.
In completely unrelated news, here's Assistant Secretary for Health at HHS, Dick Levine, recently.
Gender-affirming care is medically necessary, safe, and effective for transgender and non-binary youth and adults. Those who attack our LGBTQI+ community are driven by an agenda that has nothing to do with science and medicine. These are politically and ideologically motivated attacks, again, on trans youth, and they are contrary to the overwhelming science and evidence. So we all have to stand up. We have to stand up and advocate and take a stand on behalf of those who are being harmed in many states across the country.
At least Texas has its priorities in order. Here's Governor Greg Abbott signing a bill that bans discrimination based on hairstyles.
The Crown Act stands for Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Some Texans, especially people of color, have faced discrimination based upon hairstyle or hair texture. This law ends that discrimination. The Crown Act prohibits discrimination in housing, education, and employment based upon hair texture and styles that are historically associated with race.
Tolerance and diversity update. The Daily Caller went to the D.C. Pride Parade to ask attendees about meatball surgery for minors and chemical castration in the name of gender. Here's how that went.
When do y'all think it's appropriate for the physical sex changes, such as surgeries? What do you think?
So let's be clear. Trans health is health, and gender-affirming care is care, and that's the end of the story. So if we're trying to ask gotcha questions or anything else, we shouldn't be asking those questions. And if we're out here asking gotcha questions in the middle of Pride in D.C., then we shouldn't be asking those questions.
We are in the middle of Pride.
You're trying to ask
my microphone.
No, you're trying to ask manipulative questions.
Is this a manipulative? Do you think this is a manipulative question? The question was, when do you believe that it's okay to do the physical change, the surgery? We want him to share his opinion and maybe change the people's minds. You know what I mean?
So you're just going for it.
No, I'm he, him. When it comes to the physical transition, that is a big decision, and I completely understand that. If they make the decision when they are, of legal age of 18, 19 years old and decide that they want to make that physical transition, that's a really big surgery. That's what I believe, and I'll leave it at that.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Do you think this was a gotcha question anyway? I thought I was very open, and I thought it was a very fair question. I didn't see any problem with it.
You shouldn't be standing here trying to tell us with gotcha questions and say...
You keep saying a gotcha question, but how is this a gotcha question?
Sex change surgeries and individuals...
How is that a gotcha question? It's a very open...
Yeah, we shouldn't. And so standing here on the corner of a street trying to say, asking misleading questions that aren't getting...
How is it misleading? I don't understand.
Country music superstar Garth Brooks is doubling down on his opposition to the boycott of Bud Light, saying on his podcast recently, "I think diversity is the answer to the problems that are here and the answer to the problems that are coming," end quote. One little note real quick. Fox News is now officially tanking in the TV ratings. In the 25 to 54 age demographic on Friday, Fox barely squeaked in 2 shows to the top 10, one of the worst showings in some time. This comes as the network has sent a cease and desist letter to Tucker Carlson, telling him to stop doing his new show on Twitter. And finally this, you remember a couple of weeks ago, Toronto Blue Jays player Anthony Bass apologized for sharing a post on Instagram that supported the Target boycott.
And I am truly sorry for that. I just spoke with my teammates, and shared with them my actions yesterday, and I apologize with them. And as of right now, I'm using the Blue Jays resources to better educate myself, to make better decisions moving forward.
Well, Anthony Bass has now been cut by the Toronto Blue Jays. And that's what happened while we were away.
By the way, those ratings for Fox, worst in the history of the network among the 25 to 54-year-old demo. Worst in the history of the network among the 25 to 54-year-old demo. Worst ever.
Hail Hydra.
In the history of the network. Aaron's Montage brought to you by Jase Medical. Of course, they are the people that came up with the Jase case, so needed after what we all experienced with the scamdemic of the last few years, where suddenly venerable medications were now deemed horse-paced or dangerous, and of course, could never possibly work. So instead, you have to just hold out and wait until we have this experimental, not a vaccine, genetic serum that we can inject into you that, according to JAMA this past weekend, causes you to have a 13,200% higher likelihood of myocarditis if you're a young male between the ages of 12 and 24. Is that bad? Well, now Jase is back with something else that we desperately need. All right. It is the ultimate must-buy in family preparedness. It is an opportunity to back up your existing prescription medications for 12 months in case of emergency. I guess we'll go with that term. Case of an emergency. And it covers a whole host of medications, from mental health to heart disease, blood pressure, diabetes, even cholesterol. If you want to get signed up, and you do, trust me, go to jasemedical.com, J-A-S-E, jasemedical.com. Enter the code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. That's jasemedical.com. Enter the code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order at jasemedical.com. Coming up in the overtime today, we're going to discuss a tweet put out over the weekend by retired actor James Woods that I happen to think is a pretty good summation for what is currently happening politically. We will get into that later on today in the overtime. For Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Dace, blazetv.com/Dace, which is also where you can go if you're not yet a Blaze TV subscriber and you don't want to miss all the exclusive content we do for you all the time. Just $10 a month at blazetv.com/Dace. Okay. Where do I want to begin here? Let's start with the video from Texas. That's real.
I'm hoping he's either trolling himself or that's AI, because if it's just flat out real, I mean, don't mess with Texas. Are you kidding me? Like, what? You are this far away.
Is that more Never Back Down Super PAC AI, or is that real? Do we know? The governor of Texas in 2023, as the border of his state falls apart.
I know.
Is we're signing hair texture bills? I've never even heard of such a thing. Have you ever heard? I didn't even know this existed. I had no idea this existed. Did you know? I didn't know. The first I knew that this even existed was watching this clip, Aaron, in your montage. I didn't even know it existed. Hair texture?
I hadn't seen it on Twitter.
I mean, have you even heard that racialist talking point? Discrimination by hair texture. I have never heard of such a thing. I will be 50 years old in a month and a half. Todd, you're already 50 years old. Have you heard of such a thing living a half a century on this planet?
How dare you? How dare you, Steve? Your white privilege is just oozing out of you at this moment.
Should that actually mean that, of course, I know what discrimination from hair texture is, because being that I'm automatically racist, I'm guilty of it? I mean, I've been accused as a kid of immigrants who came here at the turn of the 20th century and lived in the ghettos first. I've been accused of every form of racism. I have, just by virtue of not having enough melanin in my skin. I have never heard, though, of banning discrimination on the basis of hair texture. And I have no idea why this is a thing in 2023 and in Texas, of all places. Y'all, you've got a freaking drunk for the Speaker of the House. Your border is a human trafficking trading post for mostly brown kids, by the way. The brown boys get turned into drug mules. The brown girls get sex trafficked. And your limp-wristed governor, who you all voted 70% for in the last primary, 70%, is out here with hair texture discrimination. Get the bleep out of here. I don't want to hear no more Texas bravado. None of it.
Oh, cut him some slack. Unlike Paul Ryan, he's into the culture war, Steve. He's standing his post.
This is one of the dumbest. That is the dumbest thing I've seen so far this year. Which, of course, says something. Because this year has already been dumber than the last year, which was dumber than the previous. Which was dumber than the previous.
Called it.
Which was dumber than the previous, and you did call it. You did, yeah. I give you credit for that. I see a trend line. They're all just getting dumber. That guy got 70% of the vote in a primary. And he's out here with banning discrimination by hair texture. If someone is white and a slob and won't wash their hair, and the texture is quite oily and lacey, am I allowed to not hire them? Or have I violated the hair texture discrimination laws of the great state of Texas?
I have a dream, Steve. We're no hair texture. We'll go by the wayside.
Sam Houston, my ass. Hair texture discrimination. Shameful. Just, remember during COVID, you were like, I know why there aren't any new episodes of Black Mirror. I mean, what storylines would they come up with, right? At what point does the Babylon Bee just say, just peace out? At what point are they like, you know what, man, this is just too damn hard. This is hard. It's just too hard. We're done here. We're tapped out. The imagination is spent. In the midst of a foreign invasion, a state that was only 3 points away from sending Beto O'Rourke to the U.S. Senate for 6 years, has a governor and a legislature prioritizing hair texture discrimination. That, folks, is a metaphor alert. That might be the most striking metaphor alert we have had in quite some time. We're not serious. We're not. The demonic realm we are up against is cosmically serious. We are not serious. There's a clip going around today of Kevin McCarthy finding some mental midget at CNN because that's all they have, and destroying her. And it's all over my feed. That's the same Kevin McCarthy. And it's all over my feed from the same people who, ha ha ha, Joe Biden fell again, ha ha ha. Yeah. Is that the Joe Biden that Kevin McCarthy got his ass whipped by? That guy. But that's a lot of who we are. Now, I think probably if you're still listening to this show, that's probably not who you are. We've probably culled that herd by our own actions. But a lot outside of audiences in a few places like this, much of what we are about are talking points. We just want talking points. Bring the grift. And the grifters aren't just the people collecting money for the clicks. many of the average Americans that we call our America First friends, they're grifters. I just want something that I can post on Facebook to pimp slap Aunt Petunia around. I just want something I can drop at the water cooler at work. I just want a talking point. So yeah, feed me that video of Kevin McCarthy with some faceless CNN midget with an IQ below Kamala Harris's knee pads. Feed me that. And I will suddenly forget that Kevin McCarthy handed Joe Biden a check for 87,000 new IRS agents. I'll just suddenly forget that. We're not Jacobs. Troubled people plotting with our own schemes, but then sooner or later we recognize, our schemes suck, so we need to turn to God. We're not what previous generations of Americans were, wrestling with God. Jacob was given another name, Israel, which means one who wrestles with God. The conflict that we feel between our own flesh and the call back home to our Creator. That tension and the realization of it is why previous generations did some terrible things in America, but then also created and kept and maintained a system that was able to correct many of them in real time or in the very next generation, or two, or three. We're now Esau's. The birthright is ours. We just want a pot of grift. We're hungry now. I got a payroll now. I got to get a ratio now. I got a book to sell now. Do you know how many times the voice in the back of my head has said to me in the last 3 months, the dumbest, you're hurting your movie by commenting on this primary. Let it go. The voice in the back of my head has said that to me constantly. Just let the whole vaccine thing go. You're turning off people who would otherwise watch your film and let you monetize it. So, I understand it. I've felt that tension all the time. My company funded this film. It's on the hook for every last dollar of it. But I also knew, because I'm in the Jacob camp, I'm wrestling with God. I also knew the first time I gave in to that instinct, I would just give in to it every single time. So if anything, I maybe went too far the other way, just as a defense mechanism against myself, to burn the boats so I couldn't go back if I even wanted to. But we're Esau's now. We just want a bowl full of grift. A spoonful of grift helps the medicine go down. Texas, the state we cannot lose. Lose Texas, and what you have to do to win the Electoral College with Texas, California, and New York blue is you almost have to electorally walk on water. Good luck. And the guy who got 70% in a primary, not against schmucks, people that are well-known, well-funded, Don Huffines, people that are well-known, have actually fought a few battles like Allen West. He just dusted those guys. 70% of the vote for the guy whose priority is hair texture discrimination. Over the weekend at the White House, men with fake boobs literally ran topless on the grounds of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, filmed it because they were proud of their actions. But it's okay. No worries. Because the state here, that's the Valhalla, the one leading the way, it's banning hair texture discrimination in 2023. There's always a remnant. Outside of that remnant, we're just fake news. We're the fakest news of all. Just give me a show. And if we are down to the point that hair texture discrimination, if we have run through all layers of talking points, that we are now down to hair texture discrimination, we need better writers than that. Dick Levine is like, well, I waited to get castrated until I had kids. Then I got castrated, and now I've got kids that I can hopefully try to demonically program. But it's okay, man. Hey, it's all right. Found out today, apparently, that there's literally a tranny bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. So I guess Bruce Jenner does have a place he can go. It's all right, man. It's okay. Got tranny bathrooms at the HQ of our alleged savior and Lord, and the state that we are all planning to flee to when it goes down just banned hair texture discrimination. It's okay. We're all right here. Everything's fine now. How are you? Your thoughts, gentlemen.
Thought. Forrest Gump.
So long have I been wrestling with this very thing. No one wants to be serious. It's not like they're just this far away, or it's not even. I used to think it was actually just baseline cowardice. I don't even think it's that. It's the Office. No, Office Space. They just don't care. They really don't. I think I've said many times out loud, I keep trying to find different ways to say the same thing. What I was trying to convey before COVID, once you got to this transgender nonsense, and that it was like, once you believe this, you will believe anything. And I mean, God is simply doing what must be done here. It is deeply tragic as a parent who knows what that means for them unless this thing turns around. It is darkness. It is simply Old Testament biblical darkness. The full weight of sin will be exposed for what it is, because apparently, where would you yet be struck? Isaiah 1 is the only thing we will understand.
Said it before, and I'll say it again now. This entire country, for going on at least a generation, and probably longer, has just been one massive grift. It's just been fundamentally, no matter what sector you look in, government, private, no matter what sphere, academia, the church, en masse, it's just been one giant grift. Nothing fundamentally is being built that's original and lasting. Grifting, as everything, is actually being torn down around us. Generationally, this thing is cooked. It's just cooked. We are a far, 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 far cry from the prophet Daniel, who actually stayed behind because he knew what his mission was in life. This generation, though, never really had a mission. Well, they did, but they rejected it. And now we're seeing the fruits of that. The wicked, decrepit fruit of that. Everywhere you look. This country has just been one massive grift, just trying to get my own off of whatever is left of the truly great generations and creeds that this country built. It really is, if you look at it, it is a testament to that, to what we once had. We've been able to go on this long with this much comfort, this much wealth and security.
Amen.
And still, we haven't completely bottomed out yet, but we're getting very close.
And no, I'm not even going to talk about the Grassley audio, because I think the odds of ever hearing it are null and void. And, why does it have to be alleged? Why just have the House start impeachment proceedings this morning with the majority, and let's start issuing subpoenas and let's find out if it's real or not. But then that would get us to truth, and we just want talking points. I just want the Grassley talking points. That's all I want. That sells. All right, let's not hesitate because he is getting ready to go out onto the House floor as we speak. Bring in my good friend, Congressman from Texas. I mean, Chip Roy, who clearly, if you look at Chip's visual, has himself some very strong thoughts on hair texture law. It's good to see you again, Chip. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, Steve. You forget what state I'm from?
No, I'm a little bewildered by your state. I mean, you've got a drunk for a House Speaker. They're trying to impeach your AG, and you've got an invasion at your southern border. But your GOP governor and legislature couldn't do school choice, but they could do hair texture discrimination laws. So. I'm wondering if your state has forgot what state they're from, Chip, but that's another conversation for another day. Let's get to what's going on in Washington, D.C. What is going on? Where are we after Kevin McCarthy's disappointment?
Well, obviously, your great listeners know this better than most, that over the first 5 months of this year, we were having a fairly effective effort by the Republican conference. Why? Because Speaker McCarthy was working and honoring his commitment to have us all sit around the table and work to move things together. And we were able to pass a strong limit safe grow bill that, yes, increased the debt ceiling $1.5 trillion, which we didn't like, but did a lot of righteous things, right? And we can go down the list. We don't need to. Passing H.R. 2 for the border, a bunch of other good bills that we're able to get over, and a couple even get signed by, President Biden. But here's the thing. Washington, they do what they do. And everybody cried, sky is going to fall with the, default claims. And unfortunately, the speaker cut what I think most average Americans looking at it see as a bad deal. I don't think any American sent me particularly, or conservatives, to Washington to increase the debt ceiling $4 trillion and in exchange get effectively a 2-year spending freeze, if we're lucky, through the appropriations process and a handful of rescissions. Now, that's all inside Beltway speak. But the bottom line is, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to agree to increase the debt $4 trillion? The default answer for most Americans would be no. Do you think we need to cut spending to pre-COVID levels or embrace post-COVID levels? Most Americans would say we need pre-COVID levels or farther back. We didn't. We basically embraced post-COVID levels of spending. Most would say we should have gotten rid of the student loans. Most would have said that we should have reined in regulations. Most would have said, that we should have stopped the ridiculousness of the Inflation Reduction Act's massive subsidies for corporate cronies in the name of the Green New Deal. We did none of that. We walked away. So here we are, water under the bridge. Now what do we do about appropriations? Our position is we should spend at the 2022 levels, which would return the non-defense bureaucracy to pre-COVID spending. We think we need to stand up for border security, and we think we need to attack those Inflation Reduction Act subsidies before they become entrenched and kill our grid and kill our energy supply. Those are the things that we think we ought to be focusing on, and we're trying to hold the speaker's feet to the fire to do that. And some of our colleagues are getting bent out of shape. And you know what I say to that? I don't give a damn, because the American people that I work for, they're thanking me. And I'd rather be thanked at home than by some schlep on the House floor.
What can our audience do to this effort? Do your colleagues who are upset at you care? Frankly, do they even care what our audiences think? Is there any level of critical mass? I mean, I was reading, I wish I could remember his name, Chip, I'm sorry. He claims to be a member of the Freedom Caucus. The fact I don't remember his name speaks volumes, because I don't remember any fight he's ever actually been with us on. But he literally said right after the deal that if he listened to his constituents, he wouldn't have voted for it. But he doesn't listen to them, so he just did what he wanted to do. I mean, what is the? I don't want our people to waste their time. I don't want them to lose their country either. So what's a good investment of their time, Chip? Is there a critical mass that they will actually be listened to?
Yes, and in fact, you saw it play out last week or 2 weeks ago. And here's what I think is really important for people to listen. I saw somebody tweet the other day, hey, I'm tired of this. I'm giving up. And I tweeted out, and you might have seen it, I tweeted out 2 Timothy 4:7. I basically said, we've got to finish the race. That's what we're called to do. Mm-hmm. You don't start this thing and then back away, right? The boys didn't hop out of the boats at Normandy and just go, oh, crap, there's a wall of bullets, I'm going to walk away. Yes, our politicians don't always listen. They don't always do what they should do. Yes, I wish we had gone further with the debt ceiling deal. But let's think about what we did do. Because of conservatives, because of the 20, because of you guys calling in, we passed a really good debt ceiling increase with massive reforms that nobody said we could do. We, for the first time, passed a border security bill with no amnesty, no future flow that actually would secure the border. H.R. 2 is a great bill. We have everybody talking on the terms we're setting. Yes, the debt ceiling deal was a bad deal and shouldn't have been done. But let's get back on our horse. Let's get everybody back in the rowboat, and let's figure out how to close the deal during the appropriations process. And if we fail then let's keep moving the needle, move it to the right, and set the stage for the 2024 cycle and the 2025 presidency. But we can't curl up in the fetal position in the corner and give up. I'm telling you, we're moving the needle. Is it fast enough for where we stayed, where we sit as a country? I don't know, man. You and I have had those existential conversations. But if we want to save the country, we're going to try. And we're going to keep trying to do it here. And we're going to keep trying to do it in the states. We're going to keep trying to do it through the presidential process. We're going to keep trying to do it by informing our citizens. But most importantly, we're going to keep trying to do it by getting churches to actually get back in the dang game. And thank you for what you've done with Nefarious and trying to light a fire, because we need a revival. But we're going to keep fighting. You don't quit. You don't stop.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you're right. Who knows if it's too late? I do know if we do nothing, it will be too late. I mean, I don't know what the future is, but I do know what self-fulfilling prophecies are.
Correct.
During the speaker fight, when there was the select group of you who held out against Kevin McCarthy, true or false, Donald Trump directly put his thumb on the scale to make Kevin McCarthy the speaker, even lobbying some of his loyalists like Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz within your contingent to give up that fight and back Kevin McCarthy for speaker. Is that true or is that false?
It is true to the best of my understanding. I read the same thing you do, and I've heard the same things from my colleagues. It is true to the best of my understanding. Not surprisingly, I did not get such a phone call, but that's true to the best of my understanding. To that end, then, did any of your colleagues get any phone calls from Donald Trump, who about a week before you guys didn't, but about 2 weeks before Kevin McCarthy cut this deal, Donald Trump did a town hall in CNN talking tough, even dropped the default term. Then when he was pushed back on, he said, well, yeah, I'm just saying that because I'm running for president. When I was president, I did totally different things, okay? But did he bother, since the speaker's his boy, did he bother to pick up the phone, make any phone calls, put his thumb on the scale? Hey, you can cut it better. He's a master deal maker, art of the deal, right? Did Mr. Art of the Deal pick up the phone, say, hey, we got to do a better deal than this. This ain't going to cut it. You know, this isn't popular. Our people don't want this. Did he exhaust any of the political capital that he expended to elevate Kevin McCarthy to speaker? Did he spend any of it on encouraging the man he put in that position to do better than whatever this was that he cut with Joe Biden? To the best of my understanding, I'm unaware of that, and certainly didn't see any public commentary. And I mean, look, I mean, this is what it is. I mean, this is part of the problem, right? Let's go back to 2018 and the Goodlatte 1 and Goodlatte 2 fight. That's a little in the weeds, DC speak. What was it? It was the border security and immigration fight. There was a really bad bill. Paul Ryan was pushing the really bad bill. Unfortunately, President Trump signed on with Paul Ryan for the really bad bill, and then worked with Chuck Grassley in the Senate for the other really bad bill. And then some of us who are conservatives were trying to push and promote the actually decent bill, not perfect, but decent. And guess what? We got a hell of a lot more votes for the decent bill than the really bad bill, even though it was being endorsed against by the Speaker of the House and the President of the United States. Look, history matters. Facts matter. And I love all the revisionist history. People want to sweep it under the rug because President Trump did so many great things at the border with respect to trying to build the wall, with respect to migrant protection protocols and return to Mexico policies. All awesome. I agree. But guess what? We had a chance to change policy. We failed. We should have done it.
So what's next? What's the timetable here, Chip?
So right now, the appropriations process is starting. We conservatives are arguing that we need to be setting all of the spending levels at actually clean 2022 levels. What's probably going to happen, unless we're successful in fighting it off that cliff, is that they're going to do 2022 levels, but then they're going to use basically smoke and mirrors to go use rescissions, which is where you claw back some additional already pre-approved appropriated money and take those dollars to then backfill bill and basically gross up and fund the bureaucracy. It is true it'll be slightly under the 2023 numbers, but it is not true that it'll be the 2022 levels. It will be basically just under the 2023 levels, and they will have used what they call rescinded money to do it. Is it better than a CR? Yeah, it's better. We get some policies in there, but it's not going to fundamentally change the trajectory of the country. We're trying to change the trajectory of the country. For example, we think that we ought to be at the 2022 levels in order to be able to save more in the out years, but most importantly, to rip apart the bureaucracy, go after the weaponized FBI, go after the weaponized, education department, the weaponized ATF.
Speaking of that weaponization, before I let you go, the unprecedented prosecution of a former president by his successor, and this will be one of two. They're going after him on January 6th in D.C. as well. There's a lot of posturing and a lot of speeches and a lot of tweeting. Is there any talk? I saw your colleague Nancy Mace, who has had nothing to say for the last 2 years, while Trump supporters who committed no violent acts on January 6th, aren't even alleged to have committed them, have been indefinitely detained for years. And now suddenly that Mr. Trump is getting unfairly treated, now she represents a lot of your body who's got a lot to say. How much of that is posturing? I mean, you guys have a majority. You have an appropriations power. I mean, is there any meaningful attempt to do anything at all against these rogue agencies at all? Or is it just posturing? What goes on up there all day long?
Yeah, well, look, so here's the best of my understanding, and I'm trying to be as objective as I can be. No one doubts I hated the debt ceiling deal. I think it was a complete failure. There are some good things. There are embedded in the deal, if you keep to the deal in the appropriations process, which remains to be seen. But even if you keep that deal, we would be able to reduce overall bureaucracy non-defense spending by about $40 billion. What that really means is you're kind of returning it to last year's number for just the non-defense bureaucracy. But that's not going to get it. That's not going to get the job done. For example, to your question, DOJ in that deal would be, I think, up 2 percentage points, or maybe down 1 percentage point or something. I don't know. It's basically flat or up a little. DHS would be up 4.9%. That is for the Department of Homeland Security that utterly refuses to secure the homeland. There are massive cuts to certain of the agencies. I applaud that. I want them all to be massively cut. But that's the reality. So now DOJ. What that means is, no, you're not getting the significant cuts you need to hold them accountable. We need to actually tell them, you're not going to get your headquarters. Now, I do think they're going to put riders in there that say you don't get your headquarters, but we need to actually constrain the dollars and make sure that DOJ is not able to continue to do what it's doing, same as DHS and the other agencies. So we'll see through the appropriations process. I will say this, because everybody needs to have some hope. Those of us fighting are holding this thing to the right, and we are shoving as hard as we can to cut as much as we can, to insert as many riders as we can. That's policy riders that would change policies along with the appropriations. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you can only do so much in this town. It will fall short of where we all want it to be, and we're going to have to kind of keep inching away. But we're fighting with everything we know how, including last week, taking down the rule for the first time in 21 years. I got lambasted this morning in our Republican conference meeting to say, you're not supposed to do that because that's all about party politics and you got to stick with the party on the floor. No, I have an individual vote for my constituents. I'm happy to work with my colleagues, but I'm going to do what I think is right to send a shot when somebody like Andrew Clyde was being retaliated against because he voted against the rule last week on the debt ceiling bill, like 29 of us, and they were jamming up his bill that would stop the pistol brace ban that is going to unconstitutionally target Americans and make them felons. And they were going to risk that for a week in order to score a political point. Mm-hmm. So we said, to hell with you. We're going to block the rule last week, and now let's get back to the table. So guess what? We got back to the table, and we're voting on the rule today that will move Andrew Clyde's bill forward unless some of our moderates decide to kill it. Hopefully that won't be the case.
Great stuff, my friend. Appreciate you. Keep fighting. Thank you for carving out some time for us. All right. God bless you, man.
Hey, God bless you all. Everybody keep forward. Keep the head up and keep marching forward.
I am. Thank you, Chip. Appreciate it. Brought to you by our friends over at Constitution Wealth. If you listen to that and you're like, yeah, I might want to make sure I've got total control over my finances. They can help you with that by helping you to align your values with your investments. No longer does your portfolio have to be at odds with your principal. They can help you both profit while being a profit, if you will. All right. Our friends at Constitution Wealth, that's what they do. They've already helped align $10 million of our listeners' wealth with their conservative values since they came on with the show at the start of the year. So if you want to put your money as a weapon, and it's a powerful one, in the spiritual battle that we're in right now here in America, book an appointment today. Get your retirement investments aligned with your values. Build the parallel economy together. Go to constitutionwealth.com/Steve. That's constitutionwealth.com/Steve. Once again, that's constitutionwealth.com/Steve. All right, some thoughts on the conversation we just had with Chip Roy.
I can't think of a single person in public life who I respect more than Chip in terms of knowing everything. You know, you probably, in terms of him explaining the machinery of how this works, it probably feels heavy, but he is absolutely using every way. I mean, kitchens, every time he comes on, kitchen sink after kitchen sink after kitchen sink. But you can see him in how he phrases things, blinking with his eyelids like it's going to take a miracle. Like that. And nothing short of this. It is revival or bust in order for us to turn this thing around. Again, because going back to what I said before, there's just way too many people. It's not even cowardice. They don't want to. They like sitting in their own diaper right now. What do you do with that?
That's why I asked, what's the critical mass that they would actually be listened to? Aaron.
Yeah, I'm just chuckling internally. You know, the federal Leviathan, all of the gears that are ground down to a nub, or that are ground to a stop, or that are going in directions that we would rather them not go. Just so many levels of corruption, of wickedness. But then again, can't discriminate against hair textures in Texas. Just like should you do that in the meat? You're pondering the lint in your navel, Greg Abbott. And so many people do that and call that serious policy. So many people pondering the lint in their navels. Is this policy? Is this policy? Revival or bust again. Every time we have him on, it's like, God bless you, man, for shining a light on this and for doing everything that you possibly can within your power to try to shine a light on this and grind things to a stop that need to be stopped. But at the end of the day, like Todd just said, miracle that we don't deserve.
We'll come back with Hour 2, Fake News and Not, and more coming your way. When we do, stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzen, Aaron McIntyre, and all of you. And you can all let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Just got an email from a guy who said, I have now lost all respect for you, so I'm no longer listening. I wrote him back instantly saying, it's okay. I already lost respect for you and had no idea that you were still here. Who are you? So you can get those kinds of responses from me too if you email the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That is DEACE. Are you okay, Princess? He didn't leave his name. I didn't know who it was.
You got to tell the answer. Where's he from, though?
He was from Texas.
Yeah. After what we just talked about.
Yeah, he decided to fulfill my criticisms by going full passive aggressive.
That's invincible ignorance, my friends.
That's thank you. Chef's kiss. Steve@stevedeace.com is the email address. That is at DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me on Truth Social as well there at Real Steve Deace. Again, DEACE is the last name. You can also leave us a 5-star review if you like the show, because you love self-flagellation. Who doesn't? It's that time of year. You can leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Hit subscribe, or if it's iTunes, hit follow instead. Thank you to all of you that have done those things for us. Also, a thank you to our livers, because they do a lot of things for us. Somewhere around 500 functions that are key to your body's health and physiology. And as we get older, our livers, it gets tougher on them. The years of wear, whether it's cholesterol, alcohol, toxins, Tylenols, statins, about 20% of the population still smokes cigarettes. These are all things that force more strain on your liver. Give it the help it needs with the recharge that it can get from our friends over at GetLiverHelp.com. Their liver health formula, it's an all-natural supplement, contains 12 clinically proven botanicals that help recharge and protect your liver. It's manufactured right here in the USA and approved by American doctors. Try the liver health formula now for your fatty liver today, and you'll receive a free bottle of nano-powered omega-3s to keep your heart healthy as well. That's try the liver health formula by going to getliverhelp.com/Steve. That's getliverhelp.com/Steve. Coming up here later in this segment, we will play Fake News or Not, but let's welcome in first my oldest daughter, Anastasia. Good to see you, Princess. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Dad?
Very well. What are we doing this week?
So I thought I'd give you guys kind of a break this week from the normal stuff. And with June, us kind of trying to perpetuate the message that June is Life Month instead of Pride Month.
Right.
A while back, I had done an interview with a girl named Bree and kind of talked to her about her story. I had kind of posted something on my social media wanting to interview some girls and kind of get some knowledge about either why they chose life. And so I interviewed her. So I thought I'd bring a little clip from her interview, and then I'll post the full one on my Twitter later. So I thought I'd kind of just show everybody a little bit of a snippet from her story.
So, of course, June is the month a year ago where Roe v. Wade was overturned. So June doesn't have to be Decadence Month, doesn't have to be Debauchery Month. It could be instead Life Month. And to that end, here's that conversation.
And what were the factors in your decision to keep the baby and not have an abortion?
Yes. So, my parents are pro-life, but also I feel like I've been able to kind of figure out what I want in my life. I've always thought of having a lot of kids. I always want like 4 kids. I've always thought of being a mother. That's something I really wanted as young as 6 years old. I was told to abort because I wasn't married by family members, by my own roommate. I was told repeatedly to have an abortion, but I knew in my heart that I wanted my daughter, and I felt like it helped me a lot to figure out what I wanted in my life, and it helped me not do drugs anymore. It helped me become a stronger person and to figure out what I wanted in life. Because I felt like before I had my daughter, I just kind of drank a lot and I did drugs and I didn't really have a purpose in life. And when I found out I was pregnant, that all changed. And I felt like God did that in my life. Because he knew what I needed. And I feel like if I didn't get pregnant, I'd probably still be doing drugs and going the wrong path. And I think choosing life was really important for me. And it was what I needed.
So essentially, her baby changed the whole direction of her life, the recognition that her life has more meaning and purpose than the existence that she was suffering through living through at that time.
Yeah, and I think something that I also wanted to point out, whether it was either in this interview or we also did another interview as well, where back and she would start to go to church again and she was pregnant, she was talking a lot about how the people at her church shunned her. They stopped inviting her to go to things. They stopped inviting her to youth groups and things like that. And it kind of reminded me of like when you talk about Halloween and stuff and you talk about like trick-or-treating. Mm-hmm. And you're like, why close your door on one of the one nights on the year where people are going to come to your house and you can actually minister to them? Mm-hmm. And that's a big mission field. I mean, what's a bigger mission field than your church and mm-hmm. what God put in place for that? Mm-hmm. And so I also kind of wanted to bring awareness to that as well, that as we continue to fight really hard for life and for babies, like I mean, the other side is making this kind of seem like more of an appealing choice, more of a welcoming choice. So just as a reminder to stop shunning people when they've either made these mistakes. They recognize these mistakes and they're obviously confused because they wouldn't be weighing their options or going to doctors or doing things if they weren't confused. So I also wanted to just heed a warning to everybody as well to, in the fight for life, to continue to, you know, be sensitive to these women in general who are really struggling, especially for her. Mm-hmm. And good thing for her that she had a root in her faith and she knew that, you know, godly people weren't supposed to act like that. But think about some of these women who may not be as rooted in their faith or have no faith at all.
You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's so easy for even the people in the church who have their own issues with a combination of pride and flat-out ignorance to focus on the drugs and alcohol. But the drugs and alcohol have nothing to do with that right there. But she was telling you is, I was selfish, I was selfish, I was selfish, I was selfish. Mm-hmm. And then I found this gift where I could pour all my love and faith and attention to something other than myself, which Steve has said many other times is one of the grand idols of the age. We have deified ourselves. So drugs and alcohol are honestly, in terms of the sins you can fall into, they're pretty low on the totem pole these days in terms of others to hold their nose. It is the sloth of sitting there and going to church every day and continue to check that every day, every Sunday, and continuing to check that box, and then going out into the world and you simply can't be bothered. That one is the sin of the Pharisees. That one is going to get you dealt with far more harshly than whatever this woman had coming down the pike.
Really appreciate both of your comments there towards the end. And I would add this as well. Having been of the men on the set most recently single as well, I never really put it out of my mind. And I love Isabella. She's just a tremendous, tremendous woman, a great mom. But I never really put it out of my mind on purpose that if there was an eligible woman who had a child, that wasn't automatically disqualifying. If you are a single man and you see a woman in that situation that was just depicted from that interview, she's not damaged goods because of what that's actually the opposite. She's a treasure because of what Todd just articulated, that she recognized where she had come from and where she is now. That's actually a treasure. So I think that's the other kind of commentary and offshoot of this conversation.
And I think during the season, it's important to articulate that there's a difference between love and affirmation. And I think that's something that a lot of people conflate nowadays, but
particularly this month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And yes, she made a mistake, and yes, she recognizes that, and you can love her through that, but that doesn't mean you have to affirm it, but that means you love her through that and continue to love her through that. And I think that's a message that we all need to remember.
Good stuff, Princess. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's also a great time to talk about our friends over at Preborn, the pro-life ministry that we support here at The Blaze. Our goal is to hear 70,000 stories this year, like the one that Anna just shared with us in her segment. And that's where Preborn steps in. They rescue about 200 babies per day from the butchers by simply providing a mother with a free ultrasound so she hears her baby's heartbeat. She then feels that. And about 80% of the time over the years when they have used this method of confrontation, the mother has been convicted and has not gone through with the killing of her child. But that's a big part of the battle. You know, we just celebrated the anniversary of D-Day. That was a big part of the battle, but the war wasn't over. And so the battle continues. And that battle is now, hey, what do we do for these moms? How are we there for them and their kids? These moms that are in crisis. A mom that's in a great relationship, is secure in her relationship, usually isn't thinking about having an abortion. It's the women, it's the moms who aren't that do. And so they provide a lot of aftercare too, postnatal counseling, even car seats, baby formula, all of that free of charge. All of it is courtesy of tax-deductible donations from people like us. Just dial pound 250 on your mobile phone and use the keyword baby. Pound 250, keyword baby on your mobile phone, or make it really simple. Just go to preborn.com/Steve. Make your gift and donation today. Make it count at preborn.com/Steve. All right, you guys ready for some fake news or not?
Let's go.
All right, so I have assembled a a cadre of tropes that have aired throughout the Twittered plane since Trump indictment number 2 has come down the lane. And I want you guys to tell us which of these you think is fake news or not, and why.
Okay.
All right? Number 1. This guarantees that Trump will be the nominee. Might as well just cancel the primary now. Fake news or not? Todd?
That's absolutely fake news. For A, DeSantis is involved. But B, remember, it's been a while, a few weeks, but I did refer to all these folks, Scott, Haley. We think that it's impossible that they could win, and in regular order of operation, that's true. But this Republican Party always learns the greatest lessons from the Democratic Party, and not the good way, and in the good direction. They want to end up being like them. And the necromance that we saw in order to make Biden, after winning nothing, the nominee, it's why all these other people are in the ring for an 11th hour GOP necromance of some kind through machinations that only Democrats in the past would try. So no, there's nothing inevitable about Donald Trump.
Aaron.
This is absolutely fake news. It was fake news after 34 felony count indictments in the New York Manhattan grand jury probe. It's fake news. Now, I don't know how this will impact the GOP primary. I don't think it necessarily has a positive impact for Trump. That's kind of the way I'm leaning now, but it's definitely not, let's cancel the GOP primary now. It was just that CBS News poll, I'll have it in the montage tomorrow, spoiler, talking about how Republicans feel towards the current crop of candidates. 28% only Trump, 24% never Trump, basically. So, yeah, the primary is not over.
I mean, Chris Christie's out there saying if Trump gets elected president again, he's just going to settle scores the whole time. And I'm like,
that's the best.
If only that were true.
Yeah.
If only that were true. We heard lock her up for 2 years, and then literally right after he got elected, I don't want to be too hard on the Clintons. And now there is a very high likelihood Donald Trump will either be in prison or under home arrest within the next 18 months, while Hillary Clinton, provided she's still alive, will still be walking around a free person. I am all for Trump just settling scores. If Trump literally just put out an ad that was the climactic scene of Godfather 2, where Michael just settles scores at the end, right? When he's is it his child's baptism? Is that where they are when this takes place?
Yes.
Okay. I can remember the circumcision or the baptism. Okay, but if I would be so in on that. What evidence do we have he will ever do that?
I told somebody on Twitter.
I couldn't fire Fauci. It would be too hard.
That's the best argument for Trump 2024.
Yeah.
Aside from the foreign policy stuff and some of the economy stuff. Yeah. Pale Rider. Now, I don't believe that's going to happen because
we
already
saw it.
Yeah. He has a record now. That's the best thing that you could be running on. But no, we're going on deep fake DeSantis.
Dude got pistol whipped in a debate by a dementia patient drummed up on Adderall. I mean, freaking come on, man. Are you kidding me? I'm all in for settling scores.
Inevitable.
If I thought it was remotely possible that Donald Trump would just go in there to settle scores, I'd be like, I don't even know who Ron DeSantis is. I've never even heard of Ron DeSantis. Is it DeSantis? I don't know. Nor do I care. There is no evidence to support this premise. None. Was Donald Trump freaking president for 4 years?
No.
It's like it never happened.
Ron DeSantis wasn't governor for...
There's a jab to prove it that he was, Steve. Have you had it for the fourth time?
I mean, he responds to Jim Comey betraying him by hiring Chris Christie's pick for the FBI. And then admits to Sean Hannity, well, I mean, I just thought that's who the Democrats would like, and Chris Christie told me he'd be great. Yes, the guy who thinks that he saved Western civilization with a genetic poisonous serum is going to drain the NIH swamp. Come on, dude. This isn't even remotely true. There's no evidence to back this up. None. None. He literally offered the largest amnesty deal in American history to the Democrats from the White House. I love settling scores. I'd love it. I'll take the anti-hero over no hero any day of the week. I was on the Cruz campaign trying to convince my guy to become the anti-hero, by the way. That was my whole stratagem. We've got to be the pale rider. That was my entire theory of all my analysis and all the work that I did on that campaign for 6 damn months, was that. There is no evidence to support this. I got to do what the courts say. I can't fire Fauci. Now I got to hire Chris Wray because Chris Christie told me to. Offer the Democrats the largest amnesty deal ever. It's goodness. Settling scores? Yes, please. Yes. Yes. Let's continue. Trump needs to drop out and support the more electable DeSantis now, for that it's his best chance of receiving a pardon. Seen this from a lot of the DeSantis folks.
I will say fake news on a technicality, and just to avoid allegations of DeSantis slappiness. It doesn't necessarily need to be DeSantis. Now, I think he's more electable, but I mean, there are a number of people that I could see are more electable than Donald Trump in the race right now. I think getting a pardon is his best. So I would just, or I guess I would change this just to his best chance at getting a pardon is anybody other than him ascending to the White House.
It's fake news because there are reasons he needs to drop out that are actually paramount to that. He won't do it, but for the good of the country, I mean, if he really wants to make America great again, step aside.
Yes, it was a prosecutorial trap, but Trump walked right into it with his own egotistical chicanery. I've heard this take a lot. Hey, I mean, he's on tape saying, I've got classified intel I didn't declassify because I want to show you that I was right and Milley was wrong. Okay? Well, what'd you expect? I've seen this take too. What'd you expect was going to happen? Yes, they're after you. You got to be smarter than that. You walked right into it, fake news or not.
This is fake news.
So they've all been taught. They've all been fake news. So
that's what I
from every side.
What I said yesterday. This is so-called conservative guy who will drive in the left lane on the highway and just go 65. And when people get pulled over for speeding for going like 8 miles over, just don't speed, Mr. Small Government guy. Okay, no. This is why You have Ukrainian impeachment. You have January 6th. You have COVID done to him. You have Russian collusion. Simply hit after hit after hit. Pay attention to what I'm doing here, because I just said it would be good for the country for him just to step aside. But hit after hit after hit put out on this man's presidency. And by extension, us, all who voted for him, and just basic, decent America, whatever's left of that in general, who want to try to promote, protect, and value that which once made this country great. And yeah, he's always Donald Trump. He does stupid things. He does this. He's played fast and loose like that. He's not new. This is not new with him. He did this in New York the whole time, which is why he has many bankruptcies. But come on. You've got this backwards. You've got this backwards. This is what I said yesterday. They lied about him over and over again at the highest level. They should be in jail.
In other words, your point is, the question isn't, why did he walk into a trap? The question is,
why is there a trap?
Why is there a trap?
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Do I think it's possible grab him by the hoo-ha secretly recorded was also secretly recorded bragging about classified documents, whatever the allegation is?
Of course.
Yes. Do I care? No. Because of what Todd just said. None of this matters. His mama says law is as law does. The only laws that matter are the ones that are forced, whether or not they're real or not. And any law applied unevenly is no law at all. So this doesn't This doesn't matter by hook or by crook, whether he's as pure as the driven snow or whether he literally just held up a beam over Mar-a-Lago and said, hey, FBI, I've got classified documents over here that I've been sharing with foreign nationals or whatever the hell. It doesn't matter because the law doesn't matter.
Yes, the people who are fine stoking a potential nuclear war with Russia over Ukraine and have left the southern border wide open for human traffickers and drug cartels, they are very, very concerned about national security, folks. Very concerned. You should know that. Very concerned. Next, the Trump charges are baseless and will be dismissed.
Fake news. Yeah. Well, it's true news that they are. So it's true news that they're probably, I don't know.
Morally baseless.
Morally baseless.
They might technically, legally be accurate.
Okay.
But given the selectiveness of this and the larger morality we just alluded to, they're morally baseless.
Yep. It's fake news, so that part is fake news. And being dismissed, no. It's because they are morally baseless that they will not be dismissed.
That's exactly right.
That was going to be my answer. Well done.
Yes.
That's it.
All right. The American people will see how immensely unfair this is. And even those who didn't previously vote for Trump will now rally to him.
Fake news. You heard
Have we said all of these are fake news so far?
You heard me telling Bob Vanderplatz yesterday, and this is, we're at the point, and we have to check ourselves on this appetite. We're at the point now where the other is so hated by us. We just think they deserve something for whatever reason whatsoever. It could be proven that he's authentically innocent. No, there's whole swaths of people that simply don't care. The justice is far from blind now. There's no such thing as justice. We're just absolutely going after people who we hate, and that's it.
One side is doing that. The other side now must do it to get the other side to stop. Mm-hmm. Okay. If without a threat of mutually assured destruction, you're just assured of destruction.
Yes.
Yes. Aaron.
Yeah. No. This is fake. This is fake news. The American people. What is the word that we're not supposed to say anymore? It's the Indian guy. The people are. You know what I'm about to say.
Yeah. Slow.
Thank you.
Malignant.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. We got 2 left. Let's see if any of these are real. Because you guys have said all of them are fake so far. And I've taken things that I've seen from DeSantis' ecosystem on Twitter and Trump's ecosystem on Twitter and alternated them. And you guys have said they're all fake so far. I love that. All right, so let's try this one because this is mine. By Election Day 2024, Trump will be convicted of multiple felonies and either incarcerated or under house arrest in Mar-a-Lago. Fake news or not?
I think it's fake news just from the latter perspective. I think he'll be convicted of multiple felonies, but since nothing matters anymore and it's just a talking point, I don't even think he has to get. I mean, he might get incarcerated, go to jail. I just don't think it has to happen. There doesn't need to be that level of closure. It's that absurd. That's all I'm saying. You make sense. I'm saying it doesn't have to be buttoned up like that. You don't have to go to jail anymore to commit felonies it's just no. We had a story to tell.
We just did all this so that we have the talking point in a campaign that he is a convicted felon and guilty of insurrection against the United States.
They are going to give themselves the talking point. And one other thing that I'll explain a little bit. They're going to give themselves the talking point and not give the photo op of whatever, Trump in chains or Trump traipsing around Mar-a-Lago. Those things can be true at the same time, while also allowing the precedent to be set that when any of their guys are convicted of felonies in the future, they also don't have to go to jail.
Now, in my defense, I would argue what you're suggesting actually is nuanced and strategic. The reason why I think they won't do those things is I don't think this is nuanced or strategic. I think this is just a mob. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
I would argue you're actually arguing for some form of normalcy. This is just very cutthroat versions of politics. I'm actually making, at least I think I'm making a case. I may not be making it well, but I think I'm making the case that this is just frothing at the mouth. Okay. All right. Last one. Trump can win the presidency from prison. I saw someone yesterday who has a show on a conservative network post this as a video, or not yesterday, but over the weekend. Post this as a video that Trump could absolutely win the presidency from prison.
So you're saying that as a political analysis, not a legal analysis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. No.
You're a little dubious that the same people that just openly harvested ballots against a sitting president in broad daylight for 3 weeks would even let him win if he actually won. They would let a guy who is in prison have a fair election. You seem dubious of this.
Can I remind people that the environment we are considering this is not just America is great and just clipping along, except for this one thing over here. We happen to have this bad guy in the presidency. Did you see the rainbow flag over the White House? Did you see that there were topless trannies dancing at the White House? Have you seen on numerous fronts how the state our country is in? And you think, what's that, silent lucidity is going to take over?
Nice reference.
No.
That's a very, very underrated song, by the way. That's a great reference. Thank you, Mr. Queensryche. Aaron.
Just on a technicality, and just because I don't want everything to be fake news, this is not fake news, actually. Trump can win the presidency from prison. He just won't.
I wish they would have all been fake. I like the fact that, Todd, you said all of them, no matter from which direction they came, including my own, they were all fake. I love that. Because that answer is as good as anything else in this era in which we live. Okay, I mean...
This segment brought to you by Cherry Girl.
Yeah, it is. It's what I was just saying about the Chris Christie talking point. I'd vote for that Donald Trump a couple times. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'll stuff the ballot box in the primary if I really thought we were just going to ruthlessly settle scores. I mean, right now, just contemplating it, Grandma. I got to talk myself down, okay? Did somebody say score settling? This is my leave of absence to the Blaze. By all means. Can I run your Iowa caucus campaign for you? Let's just get this thing rolling. I'm all in. Let's just start settling scores now. There's never been any score settling. Never. There was hire Mitch McConnell's wife. You just heard Chip Roy last hour just outsourced battles to Paul Ryan and trust him when he was speaker. The same guy who was on TV this morning saying, I don't believe in culture wars. I mean, I can't. Fauci's great. I couldn't fire him. It was hard. Chris Christie told me to hire Chris Wray, so I did. Ye gads. The only scores getting settled are the scores they're going to settle against us. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show with a word from our friends over at Birch Gold. Again, if you heard our buddy Congressman Chip Roy talking last hour. Yeah. And they just raised the debt ceiling for the 666th time, I believe it was. Make sure you get some information from our friends at Birch Gold and find out why gold, precious metals like gold, have been used as hedges of protection by smart people against government debasement schemes going back eons. Whether it is our current cronyist state, gangster government, fascist state, whether it was mercantilism, feudalism, collectivism, whatever the ism was that was debasing the currency and the economy, gold has been a valuable asset to protecting your assets. For example, you can convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold with the help of our friends at Birch Gold. Just text Steve to 989-898 for your free info kit on gold. Text Steve to 989-898. No obligation, just information from an A-plus rated Better Business Bureau company with thousands of happy customers. Text Steve to 989-898. Do it right now. Take action today. Text Steve to 989-898.
Along those lines, Steve, I have a transitory inflation update for you. You guys ready to hear this?
Yes.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, again, this is a transitory inflation update. One should expect a slow decline in the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. That's U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen.
And if I know a lot of you listen to our patriarch here, Glenn Beck, the Hall of Famer. This has been his point of when the final stage of managed decay and late Republic nonsense truly kicks in. Isn't this what he has been warning about on his show recently? Is this right here, is the replacement of the dollar as the reserve currency for the rest of the world. Listen, we have operated on what I call the military standard economically for about a century. We have been able to get away with being a debtor nation, just recklessly printing currency with no one to call in the note and no one to hold it accountable because we had two things going for us. One, we had the largest middle class in the world. And so other countries that may have wanted to compete with us to replace us wanted and needed our buying power from our own citizens more, and so they tolerated it. But then most importantly, our military might. The way that it worked if you were a debtor nation until the modern age is that usually meant you were in debt to other nations. And what would happen is if time went by and you couldn't pay the freight, you couldn't pay the bill, that other nation was outside your city gate with an army. Come to collect. And usually the collection was taking your territory and claiming your people. It was called a conquest, an invasion. Now, no one was going to invade the most technologically advanced, badass army in the history of human civilization until it decided it was no longer interested in being the most badass army and technically advanced military in human history. And instead now it's interested in tranny madness and wokeism and poisoning its own members with a genetic serum that for males 12 to 24. A lot of military people in the age group, 24-year-old? No. Okay, good. Good. That's good to know. Good to know. Not a lot of military men around the ages of 18 to 24, because if there were, there could be some problems, because JAMA just published a study that found the poisonous genetic serum from Operation Murder Inc., Warp Speed, gives you about 13,200% more likelihood of myocarditis at the ripe old ages of 19. So it's a good thing. Not a lot of males 18 to 24 in the U.S. military. You wouldn't know any males 18 to 24 in the U.S. military, would you? I don't. Except for my son-in-law. So it's a good thing that we don't have any of those, and they're very rare, because if they did, they could be looking at injecting a bunch of young men with something that off the back end of their life, 96% of them, by the way, in this JAMA study, 96% needed to be hospitalized. 96%. 87% recovered, which means 13% did not. And when they say recovered, they mean back to normal life at the age you're at. They're not talking about what this takes off the back end of your life. What's it do to your heart? What's the number one killer in the country, by the way? What is it? Heart disease. Yeah. So what does it do? Tread on the tires. What does it do to you, the tread on your tires from a cardiac perspective when you're 50, 60, 70, when you had myocarditis at 19? Is it a good thing? I mean, if it was, we'd be just injecting myocarditis into people, wouldn't we? Hey, let's get the myocarditis out of the way and get it into them at 17.
Don't give them any ideas.
There you go. We kind of are. Yeah. That's exactly what we just kind of did. So that's what our military is now. And so now, a lot of these other countries are like, there's lots of different ways to invade a declining superpower. Why risk a full frontal assault? Let's invade them on a fiduciary level. Let's invade them with the currency. Let's currency invade. There's lots of ways to do this in this nice, big, happy globalist village we all live in where we're all interconnected. There's lots of ways to invade your enemies now. You don't necessarily have to risk the full frontal assault. You don't have to go Red Dawn. You can just go Wall Street.
Have you heard we're fighting hair injustice in Texas?
I'm glad you made a note of that again, because, hey, you won't be able to afford a carton of eggs. Your white kid in the suburbs is dying of the fentanyl that was carried over the border by the brown kid who's being human trafficked by drug cartels against his parents' wishes. But it's okay.
You're governed by a hairy justice warrior.
Indeed. It's okay. I bring you glad tidings of great joy. You have won the fight in Texas over hair texture discrimination. And I think we're done here.
Hill to die on.
In more ways than one. So let's end this on some good news. Don't you think? A reminder that the iron law of the universe, because of its creator, maybe not in the timing we would like, and sometimes in the ways we least expect, still bends to justice. That when the Lord says things like, do not be deceived, I will not be mocked. You will reap what you sow. When the Lord says things like, he has received his reward in full. These are not just idle words. This is how you know God isn't a Republican. He acts. Doesn't just talk. He acts. Aaron had this story in his montage, and I think we should close with it on Pop Culture Tuesday. I think we need a pick me up. And no, I'm not celebrating the downfall of another. I am celebrating this demonstration of divine justice, that God is still on the throne. The Toronto Blue Jays have cut pitcher Anthony Bass just over a week after he apologized for sharing a video on social media that encouraged Christians to boycott Bud Light and Target. Aaron reset that video in his montage. He said, I just had a struggle session. I'm sorry. That's not what he said. Let me make sure I get that quote right. He said, I just sat down with the personnel from the Toronto Blue Jays, and they beat me to submit. No. Damn it. They educated me on my wrong think. That's close, isn't it? Close enough?
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah, okay. He had previously apologized for sharing a video on Instagram that made a biblical case against spending money that supports businesses that are pushing people, particularly children, to, quote, darkness, end quote. Those were his words. But now he says but then he said he was sorry that he issued that hurtful video. It's hurtful. He gave us the old Jeff Sessions. It's hurtful. I just spoke with my teammates, and I shared with them my actions yesterday. I apologized with them, and as of right now, I'm using the Blue Jays to better educate myself, to make better decisions moving forward. Locker room culture has apparently changed, Todd, since back in the day when you and I played.
A bit.
Back in the day when I covered teams in locker rooms, things are a bit different. Okay, we went from, man, they're saying things that you don't want the ladies to hear, to there's ladies in here, if you know what I'm saying. So, Mr. Bass, he was rewarded for successfully enduring and completing his struggle session with the Toronto Blue Jays with a guaranteed contract, a 5-year deal. He'll be one of the highest paid players at his position in Major League Baseball. No. He was cut yesterday. Kicked to the curb. Kicked to the curb faster than you can say, the Clintons have suffered enough. I don't want to make them hurt anymore. You know, by the guy that's just going to settle scores. Yeah. Kick to the curb. Finished. Done. That, folks, let those with ears to hear, let them hear. I absolutely believe this is providential. Bassett identified as a Christian, made this bold proclamation on Instagram, completely deserted his stated belief system and worldview in order to chase after the whore of Babylon, to chase after the harlot. He caught his Jezebel only to receive his reward in full. And now, he's just another unemployed ex-jock. Do not be deceived. God will not be mocked. We will always reap what we sow. This should give us confidence despite everything else. Charles Grassley, who at 105 cannot utter a sentence coherently. Because he's 105! Out there making allegations about bribery tapes that we'll never get to hear. Because that's all Republicans do. Talk. The one who I alone can solve, who's just going to settle all the scores, has a bathroom for Bruce Jenner. Or let's Bruce Jenner use the women's bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. The state where we're all supposed to run to when it goes down, right? That's where we're all supposed to assemble in Texas when it goes down, right? Is out there securing the rights of people based on the texture of their hair. But these things will fail us. God will not. God will not be mocked. He will not be trolled. He will not be trifled with. And that is a lesson. That is a lesson that Anthony Bass has learned in the last 48 hours. And I think we should end this show today, gentlemen, celebrating that lesson learned. He wanted a struggle session. He got one. Romans 1. Your thoughts?
Well, it gets better if this is real.
It's not. I fell for it.
The AA thing?
Yeah,
okay,
it's
because
not. I got duped by that as well.
Because it was on National Review too, which you might say. Okay, thank God. Because I had just seen it once. All right. They're making a joke. They're making light of this by saying a AA catcher who's identifies as trans. Yeah. Yes, who got, being called up. But see, that's.
Believable.
Yeah, I know.
Totally a non-binary catcher.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on. We didn't fall for non-binary catcher, did we?
What were you saying about the Babylon Bee earlier?
I'm so shell-shocked. I know. I'm just so shell-shocked. Did you see? Did you see the White House?
A non-binary catcher was put at the bottom of the lineup. Come on, guys. What am I paying you for? Come on.
Well, I started off by saying I'm not sure if it's true, but hey, that's all I got. That's all I got.
In your defense, this really was portrayed at the White House 48 hours ago. In your defense,
yes. This is the White. What was a bigger insurrection? What happened in the White House or January 6th? Discuss. This is my point.
So the White House has now come out and said
they did. They came out.
By the way, I just want to go on the
Anthony. We saw 40 hours ago.
Anthony Bass. I actually take pleasure. I take pleasure in this. I really do. You denied your Lord and Savior in front of men. That's what I'm greatly more offended at. But fighting the culture war, whatever. I'm more offended about that. You deserve this, and I take pleasure in telling you that. Back to the White House, what we were just talking about. They have now come out and said that the topless trannies at the White House, absolutely unbefitting, disrespectful of any occasion, and they're never invited back. By what standard?
Yeah.
By what standard would they make that proclamation?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me. I don't know. They're literally flying the Progress Pride flag in place of the American flag on the rotunda. Shuffling the American flag off to the side, as we discussed yesterday. By what standard would you say topless anybody is disrespectful and not befitting of a White House event? I'm all ears.
Yeah, if this is your settle scores argument, I like where we're going with this. Let's keep riding this. You know
who does settle scores? God.
Here's what makes me, I agree with you, Aaron, what's deeply sad about this. Like, this guy's not that old, so I would guess has some parents in his life. He is a Christian. They might have had something to do with it. But my whole mothers and baptism versus vaccination thing, what would you be willing to bet that the home he brought home was raised in, the Christian home he was raised in, I bet he got some advice along the lines of, son, you worked too hard for this. You can't sacrifice this now. Just say I'm sorry and be done with this. This is the, in the Christian home.
This is all going to come down to conviction. Not the superior ideology, not the superior theology, not the superior plan, the superior conviction. And that is a lesson that Anthony Bass has learned the hard way. We should applaud as he's learning it, and then learn from him so we don't make the same mistake. John 3:17.